cleared the tower. Every four computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Hello and welcome, dearest friends of this here internet. My name is Mock, and yet again I am broadcasting live from within the chaos of reality itself. I now have a 2-day streaming streak. Streamed yesterday, streaming again today. Hopefully I can keep this up. And let's see. Is the background music a little too loud? It just might be. I'm gonna go ahead and tweak that. That should be good, I think, right? Is there any way for me to test actually? I'm gonna make sure that my audio source, whatever, I don't know how to explain this. I'm gonna make sure that my audio is playing through my earphones rather than the desktop speakers. So let's fix that. There we go. Oops. All right. So,
Now we gotta go help people
whoops.
customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Lieber, where's the golf cart? There it is. Only pay
Freaking ads. All right, so I can hear myself. I don't think the background music is too loud. Seems like a good volume to me. Do I dare check in on the stream? If I do it, we might get some... If I check in on the stream while on stream, we're gonna get some audio feedback looping. YOLO, we're gonna try it. All right. I actually can't hear anything. That's worrisome. I see what the issue is now. All right. I see what the issue is now. All right. I see what the issue is now. And we're gonna stop there. We're gonna stop because this is gonna cause so many problems for the audio that it's not even funny. There, we're gonna stop because this is gonna cause so many problems for the audio. Yep, it's working. Now we can close that, not mess with it, not cause more problems for myself. Alrighty. probably get this out of the way. So just like last time, I'm gonna be doing some video reaction to pass the time while I work on some figure customization / painting. Today I'm gonna be reacting to some Sydney Watson. She's a very interesting person who talks a lot about the current culture and media. I've heard a lot about the Supergirl movie. It seems like it's kind of polarizing. Some people enjoy it, or actually some people really, really like it, and other people are just not interested in any way. And I'm one of those people. It looks like an alright movie, but I don't see anything compelling about it. Like, the story seems pretty much like the same old stuff we've been seeing from superhero movies in the past, like 5-10 years. And the character looks alright, I guess. I mean, again, nothing all that different or interesting, so I'm definitely not gonna watch it. I'm mostly just gonna be watching content about it rather than spending my money over in the movie theaters.
Because it's Pride Month and all that, and I think that she's a really great representation of what a modern woman can be. She can be strong, she can be tough, she can be messy, and I love how this film doesn't center around any sort of love.
No, really, who could have...
Again with this, guys, what are we doing? Are we really gonna go back to the Snow White, what is it called? The talking points that they use for Snow White. I don't understand why they keep doing that. I mean, it does nothing for the movie. It literally doesn't give it any positive press. It just makes people look silly.
seen this coming? Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to hell. Well, baby birds, I definitely debated about discussing this film again, but we are going to because it really is the gift that keeps on giving. But really, I wanted to wait and see how Supergirl would actually do in cinemas before saying anything and weighing in, because I was seeing a little bit of chatter that it was going to apparently do okay. But as most of you can probably anticipate, that is not the case at all. It's done really quite badly, and for some reason I find that quite humorous. If you're not up to date with this drama, a new superhero movie called Supergirl, starring Australian actress Millie Alcock, was pooped out in cinemas on June 26. The film follows the story of Kara, an alien and the cousin of Superman, as she navigates revenge and betrayal and goes on a journey to do something to someone somewhere. They made her very cool, you know, very, very punk rock. She doesn't care and nobody understands her. It's probably worth noting that the storyline here revolves around sort of a sex trafficking ring, because the primary bad guys are all male space pirates and kidnap women and girls from across the galaxy, specifically to sell/force them to be brides in order to...
Honestly, that's not a bad premise. That sounds like it would be a compelling story. We've seen movies about this, and it's a real world issue that people face. I mean, where did it go wrong?
to continue their all-male society/race. So it's Mad Brides.
Wait, what?
In order to continue their all-male society/race. So it's Mad Max.
What is that? I guess I would have to watch the movie to understand how that entire sort of, what would you call it, like how that entire dynamic actually plays out in practice.
It's a bad Mad Max. Got it. The primary bad guy, Krem, hurts Supergirl's dog with a poison blow dart that only he has the antidote to, and that's what sets our story in motion. I will not lie, you could not pay me to watch this film. I'm sorry. In the days leading up to its official release, many influencers and critics were giving the film positive reviews, suggesting that it was refreshing and interesting. Then, at the film's premiere in New York on June 22nd, our friend Millie got back in front of reporters and started saying some more things about how her character could beat up Superman.
Who's gonna win, you versus Superman?
I'm gonna win, but it's because he's gonna let me win. Because he is.
And that's just his character.
Yeah.
But you're also stronger.
But I'm stronger.
Objectively.
Objectively stronger,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna win.
It's the reporter. The reporter is pushing her to say some crazy stuff. That wasn't a bad answer, but she doesn't look like a very likable person.
And how, in honor of Pride Month, she thinks Kara is a representation of a modern woman and a positive figure for the LGBT community.
Let's go.
Well, okay.
Have you heard from the fans, specifically from the LGBT community, about how they've been able to relate to your character?
I've just had a few people ask me about her and about her because it's Pride Month and all that, and I think that she's a really great representation of what a modern woman can be. She can be strong, she can be tough, she can be messy, and I love how this film doesn't center around any sort of love, you know? It doesn't
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
center around romance or anything like that at all, and she has such resilience that I think that that community is a community that is so resilient, and they can really relate to that in that.
Millie, I am genuinely asking you to stop talking. Just lips closed. No more. As a total aside, it's actually quite depressing that this is how Hollywood defines modern women. Messy and bad, no romance, no love interest, framed through LGBT representation at every opportunity.
And then wonder why our birth rates are down. Women don't want nobody. Women want to be alone. Women are messy. Like, that doesn't sound great, guys.
I'm tired, boss. Anyway, no matter how many positive influencer reviews were coming to the forefront here, it just wasn't enough to stop what was to come. Because actual critic reviews have been absolutely brutal, and the early box office numbers that we are seeing are probably on that same page as well. According to several outlets, the film did $18 million on its first day, which includes previews from 2 other days, and it is expected to do overall $42 million at the top end, or $37 million during this opening weekend at the bottom end. Apparently, some outlets are also reporting that the film is bombing insanely internationally. Also worth noting as well that the film had a $175 million production budget, although this could be as high as $186 million.
I don't understand. They know that people are fatigued of superhero movies. They know that people are fatigued of the modern culture. So why do they keep pushing such insane budgets? Like, make a small budget movie with as much what would you call it? I guess the best way to do it would just be to make small budget movies with experimental characters / plot lines, right? Or at least fan service characters and plot lines. You know, the fan favorites, like Batman. Well, actually, no. I feel like if they did go with fan service characters who everybody already loves and enjoys, it's just gonna lead to even more superhero fatigue. So just make different movies. Just go with experimental plots, characters, small budget, and try to, turn a profit at least.
$186 million for something that gives people depression or puts them to sleep. Very on brand, Hollywood. Very on brand. Although I will say that there is an infinitely cheaper way of getting to sleep and staying asleep, and no, it's not watching Supergirl. It actually happens to be the sponsor of today's video, who I freaking love, and that sponsor is Beam. Let's take it away. If you are anything like me and have trouble winding down enough to actually get to sleep, sleep, Dream's Sleep Hot Chocolate might be the solution that you're looking for. Practically everybody that I know has some issue falling asleep, be it stress from life, too much screen time, their brain just won't shut up. I unfortunately relate to that one a lot. I'm sure that a lot of you guys do as well. It's sort of ironic because so many of us used to stay out until 8 a.m. partying, and now if we don't get 8 hours of sleep, it's akin to being waterboarded. But this is why I take Dream sleep capsules most nights, and as you can see, I am almost out. This is a travesty. But Dream's Sleep Hot Chocolate Mix is equally delicious and wonderful, and I really mean that. You can absolutely drink it hot if you want, but given that we are in the throes of summer here in the US, you can also drink Dream as an iced chocolate, in case you aren't feeling hot drinks before bed right now. Anytime anybody in my life complains about not getting good sleep, I tee them up with a bag of this. I put it in little baggies for them so they can try it like a drug dealer, because I didn't realize how bad my sleep was until I was using this and getting actual good sleep. I don't wake up feeling groggy after taking Dream, and I sleep like an absolute rock. It's dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan, non-GMO. There's absolutely no added sugar, and it has a bunch of great ingredients like reishi, L-theanine, magnesium. It also has melatonin-free options if you're sensitive to it, but you can also have melatonin if you're not. Just mix your cocoa into water or milk, whatever you choose. Use your Beam frother until it is fully mixed and leave it as is, or mix it into ice for a perfect evening wind-down routine. So if you are ready to finally get amazing sleep, then you can get early access to Beam's 4th of July sale and be the first to shop up to 42% off using my exclusive link. So click the link in the description box or go to shopbeam.com/SydneyW and use code SydneyW for up to 42% off
W Sydney.
with Beam's 4th of July sale. And just to put all of this in perspective, because numbers are boring and terrible,
I've always considered, I've heard a lot of people say that Beam is a really good product or whatever. So I've always kind of like considered trying it. But unfortunately, I don't really need stuff like that. I do get really good sleep just on my own. Or, no, actually, I'm lying. It's not that I get good sleep on my own. It's that I can kind of just fall asleep on command. For the most part, all I have to do is lay down and basically command myself to sleep. But occasionally I'll have trouble. It's just not very often.
a $37 to $42 million opening for Supergirl would rank among the most extremely disappointing releases for big budget superhero films in recent years, especially post-pandemic. Because as you all know, the big sneeze changed things drastically with moviegoers. I mean, it's absolutely not the worst performance, but given the IP, the marketing, the connection to Superman, it's really, really, really not great what is going on right now. Not for these people. It's also sort of funny when you compare all of this to other big budget superhero films that have tanked, like The Marvels and The Flash, which people keep referencing all over the place. Both movies are considered to have bombed, with The Marvels debuting at 46 million and The Flash opening at 55 million. Supergirl could possibly be worse than both, which is absolutely insane. But my little chickadees, this is not even the worst part. No, 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 it is not. Like I mentioned, the reviews here are absolutely so brutal. Variety magazine, which I'm sure a bunch of you are familiar with at this point, they have covered Millie Alcock a ton, published her interviews, yada yada. Well, they put together a review of this movie, and it is nothing if not scathing. Supergirl review. Millie Alcock takes charge in a dystopian superhero movie so flat it is super horrendous.
Yo.
The little teaser line here, which I love, says, "It's got a terrible script and a punk rock attitude of corporate pretension." No! Who could have seen that coming?
Not me.
This review basically tells us that anything that calls itself punk rock is actually cringe, and the second you call anything punk rock, it has ceased in that moment to be punk rock, and has instead become lame. And unfortunately, this is a movie that is very much self-styled that way. Did I not tell you guys recently that Millie Alcock running around telling everybody that she was inspired by Vivienne Westwood and random Australian indie bands was gay? The 90s version of gay, not the men kissing other men version.
One designer that inspired me for playing Kara was Vivienne Westwood.
What is
she
that?
Very much reflects.
What does that have to do with superheroes, though? Like, I can understand if maybe it's like a very heavily stylized story slash film, right? But I mean, it doesn't even look like that. It doesn't really look like they went out of their way to make it about fashion or art. It was just kind of like pretty usual superhero visuals. It wasn't anything outside of the norm.
Reflects Kara's spirit. She's very rock and roll, very punk, very anti-authoritarian.
Well, this reviewer agrees with me. And of course he does, because I'm right. He also calls out how this movie thinks it's really edgy and cool, but it really isn't, and generally takes aim at everything and everyone, making fun of how there is functionally no storyline in this movie, that there is so little of anything meaningful in this film, that there isn't even enough of a plot for the story to even make it convoluted. It can't be convoluted because there's not enough plotline here. He makes fun of the Supergirl backstory, her enemies, her allies, and then he takes aim at James Gunn himself, saying, Gunn was right to want to take the comic book genre back to well-structured screenwriting basics. So what has he done in his second DC outing? He's given us a comic book movie with the worst script I can remember. And this theme just basically continues with most other reviews that I've read. Reason published a review titled, Supergirl is a bafflingly grim, violent, and depressing take on a superhero movie. A drunk, depressed young woman fights personal demons and an interstellar sex trafficking gang. Isn't this supposed to be fun? Well, that's the thing, Peter. You'd think so, but no. Films like this, which are apparently supposed to be for little girls, because they keep telling us that this is a movie for young women and girls, are supposed to be depressing and sad and terrible. Because apparently this is what modern women want. Suffering.
There are going to be a lot of little girls
I
who
know,
see this.
and that's really gonna get me. That's gonna be.
Unfortunately, from what I've heard, that it is what women want. A lot of what would you call it? A lot of stories, for example, books that are marketed towards women, usually include a lot of very depressing plot lines.
The thing that I'm like.
Anyway, this review explains that while it wasn't the best movie ever made, James Gunn's Superman was at least charming in its own way. Supergirl, on the other hand, is, quote, dark, depressive, and dull. Supergirl is such a thoroughly grim and charmless picture that it almost plays like an in-universe rebuke to its predecessor's lightheartedness. It's a downer of a movie in nearly every way. Oh, but this review gets even worse. The whole thing plays like a fourth-rate Mad Max ripoff, but without the pedal-to-the-metal action sequences or the single-minded vengeful fury. It's...
Alright, so we are doing some panel lining, right? Trying to make sure that the little accent lines on the figure are easier to see. The problem is using black panel liner is just not working out for me. It leaves it kind of grainy. So, and I thought I could remedy this issue by moving quickly and cleaning it up as quickly as possible. But even that didn't really help it. So what I'm gonna do, what I'm thinking about doing, come on, what the hell? I've got black specks all over. What I'm thinking about doing is taking the light gray panel lining Gundam marker and basically dumping out the ink to use with a brush. Let's see if the texture changed on the plastic from the use of the paint and alcohol. It doesn't look like the paint and alcohol have affected the plastic itself, so we're looking good. I'm kind of thinking of ways that I can get rid of the panel lining now. The best thing I can think of is to just spray it down with alcohol and rub it off real fast. I'm gonna try that. Let's see what happens. Let's at least see what happens. Didn't really seem to do much.
Yo, new beat. Need lyrics.
My gosh, shut up.
It's not fun. It's barely even righteous. It's just miserable. At one point, Supergirl flat out murders a guy by pushing a giant sword through his neck. Somehow, I suspect even Zack Snyder would be appalled. This reviewer seems genuinely disturbed by the things he saw in this movie, and he basically spends most of this review asking, who on earth signed off on these decisions? Again, I think it is worth saying that you have to remember that Millie Alcock herself and other people kept saying that this is a movie for young women and girls, and I want to know who is taking their kids to see a film like this. Who is allowing their children to see people getting stabbed in the neck? Who is doing this?
There are some people.
And this is why a bunch of people, me included, have been asking this entire time, who is this movie for? Who is this made for? Because it's not the children. In my travels of the internet, I saw very, very few reviews that actually gave the movie any sort of credit. Most were appalled by what was being shown on screen, or could not understand how anyone thought this plot and its scenes were ever a good idea. A handful of reviewers tried to compliment Millie Alcock's performance personally, but I think this was more so in an effort to save face, I guess, rather than because there was anything positive to say. I also get the impression this was an effort to defend her personally in some way, trying to separate her performance and her character from the stale plot and horrible writing that audiences are currently slamming. For instance, while acknowledging that Supergirl lacks originality and depth in its plot, even calling it an uninspired slog, The Hollywood Reporter framed Millie as an appealingly punky protagonist. Oh, she is so punk rock. One film critic from The Guardian seemed to be more preoccupied with Supergirl's name than anything else, as he questioned why her more famous cousin gets to rock the mature Superman title while she's left with Girl. There is already a
Wait. From what I understood, I'm not like a huge Superman fan, but from what I understood, it was because she was younger than him, wasn't she? Isn't she supposed to be like in her like mid to late teens originally?
Superwoman, and there's actually even a Wonder Woman. Please just shut up, Peter. Anyway, besides the 5 people who liked Millie Alcock here, apparently it's really jarring to have such an utterly depressing superhero juxtaposed next to Superman, who pops up a few times during the film, who is trying to be positive and chipper. It's what I'm gauging from what these people have written. And these two side by side apparently only highlights how utterly bizarre the whole thing is, that all these sequences are, so, you know, there's that. I pointed this out in my first video about Millie Alcock, but even Grace Grace Randolph, who is a YouTuber that most of us would disagree with on most topics, has weighed in here, and she's weighed in negatively. Her first video was to say that Millie Alcock's comments were not great and that her handler should be doing a better job. But this time it was to give a review of this film where she actively said that she was looking forward to the next Superman movie and wanted to forget whatever garbage this was. She discussed how there's a scene where Kara is drunk, pees, and then goes back to bed without washing her hands. That was an important thing that she told us. And the audience sees all of it. She said that it's super hard to feel anything about Kara's dog Crypto because he's so obviously bad CGI. But one of the parts that stood out to me is where Randolph says that not every movie has to be some sort of feminist manifesto.
Not every movie and show about a female character needs to also double as a feminist manifesto. I mean, can't Supergirl just save the day? I mean, I'm fine with messaging, and I'm okay with movies. I think Barbie balanced things very nicely. But again, this is a non-spoiler review, but just to give you a little bit of an example, they shoehorned a subplot in here about trafficking underage girls. That not only is not from the original comic, but that it's lifted directly out of Mad Max. Like, directly. Like, how did you think you could do that? And it doesn't do the movie any favors. It just makes it too heavy-handed, too eye-roll. Like, and also it reminded me a little bit of Black Widow to a degree as well. You know, I'm going to mention it later, but Millie Alcock was like, I didn't watch any female superhero movies to prepare for this. And you're like, maybe if you had, you would have noticed you were copying quite a few of them.
Listen, when the people who have advocated for feminist storylines are suddenly switching it up and saying that not everything needs to be a feminist story, you know you've gone too far. You know you have fallen off the edge of the cliff and there is no returning. I actually saw one tweet about this exact issue that just went even harder. This person wrote, Supergirl is such feminist slop. She's fighting a race that is male only. How does a male only race even evolve and continue to exist? They need to kidnap women in the film to propagate their race, so they can't reproduce without women. It is completely oxymoronic and biologically implausible. Sorry guys, I have to fix what this person's written because it's not written for speech and I don't even think that's a complete sentence. Anyway, the tweet goes on to say that the screenwriters wanted a way to make all the men into evil, you know, people who...
No, I didn't put anything to wash.
What happened to towels?
Maybe it was your mom.
Oh. I was like, why are there towels missing? And I thought you put them to wash. But yeah.
Good morning.
Do evil things to women for political reasons, but they weren't creative enough to write a good reason for this to be the case. And the whole thing just comes off as an overly forced feminist power fantasy. So everybody is in agreement then, joined by the mutual hatred of this film. One of the other things that Grace Randolph really hammers on too is how Supergirl stole so much from other movies. How the jokes are the same, the sequences are the same, even the plot points, and you could have just copy and pasted these scenes and whatever from other movies into Supergirl and there would really be functionally no difference. So with all of this in mind, it's just really not terribly surprising at all that the more that people watch this movie, the fewer good things that they have to say about it. And I think on a long enough timeline, we're going to see more and more audience reviews that reflect the negative opinions of the critics, so everybody will just be joined in negative output about this movie. Already, we are seeing people say this movie is getting review bombed because people are leaving 1-star reviews. But that is not what's happening here at all. If even the people who would ordinarily like this kind of movie, and more specifically like this movie itself, are showing up and saying that it's not very good, that's probably indicative of how bad it actually is. And you couple that with all of the drama around James Gunn and Millie Alcock and some other bits and bobs, and you really do have a recipe for disaster. As a complete and total aside, I found it really interesting that Variety actually published a full and probably unedited interview that they did in the past with Millie Alcock, headlining this article, "It's hard to be universally beloved. Millie Alcock goes deep on her Supergirl journey, from auditioning to tuning out toxic fans." Like I said, they obviously did this interview some time ago and used snippets of it to write other pieces, some of which I have referenced on this channel, but I do think it's interesting that they are bringing this up now, and part of me was like, I wonder if this is in an effort to sort of defend Millie Alcock, but you know, they're probably actually just jumping in on all the backlash, given the way that they're titling all of these articles. In this interview, just by the way, Millie Hayley Alcock says that this character is the closest that she's ever been to playing herself, and I don't know, I'm thinking maybe that's the problem here. I have said this a million times before, so I'm not going to rehash my thoughts again and again, but I will say that Supergirl embodies everything that is wrong with modern Hollywood. It is why everything about modern Hollywood is failing. It is no longer about good storytelling or creating compelling characters, and as a result of that, they don't even know who their movies are for. Films today, including this one, are basically just message delivery systems for politics, or they're a form of activism. They're a way of delivering a specific message and viewpoint to the people who are viewing them. Studios, directors, writers, whoever, they're not making movies for us to enjoy. They're making movies to drill into us whatever, you know, ideology and political messaging is hot at the time. I really do think that this movie was going to fail regardless, because, I mean, number one, who actually was asking for a Supergirl movie? Probably nobody. But more importantly, there really is this level of fatigue around superheroes, around these big blockbuster kind of movies, because they're never actually all that good. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They're never that good. They hit cinemas, you watch it and you think, yeah, that was forgettable, and then you never think about it again. When superhero stories were popular, it was because they were well written, the characters were good, they were an event. They were something that you waited to come out, you went and saw it, and it actually made a lasting impact on you. These days we get one after another, after another, after another, and they sort of follow the same sort of storyline and trajectory. They sort of have the same cadence and tone and whatnot, and once you've seen one of them, I sort of feel like you've seen them all. Now, granted, I realize that I may not be the primary target demographic for these films, but I still really liked a bunch of superhero movies over the years and looked forward to them being in cinemas, like Wonder Woman, for example, and Guardians of the Galaxy. But I would never, even in years gone by, have gone to see Supergirl, and everything right now that surrounds this movie just feels so uninviting and unappealing, especially reading through all of these reviews that relate to the characters and the storyline and everything. It just seems like such a dumpster fire. I will say as well, I am a little surprised that this movie seems honestly so much worse than I was anticipating. Like, I really mean it when I say that these reviews went so hard. Anyway, in the end, I'm just not super sure how many more movies need to implode like this for Hollywood to see that what it is doing is not working. People have fatigue. They are tired of bad storylines. They are tired of over-reliance on special effects and CGI. They're tired of crappy characters and badly written characters, and they're tired of actors and actresses getting on red carpets and lecturing everyone around them. So I don't think any of us will be surprised when this movie turns out to be a massive, massive flop, but it probably, unfortunately, won't be the last one that we see this year, and it also won't be the last superhero movie to absolutely fall on its face. Now, on that note, and before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Beam using the link in the description. As you know, I freaking love Beam. They're one of my favorite sponsors. And this is a good arrangement because if you guys go support them, then they support this channel, which means that I get to support you in a roundabout way with discount codes and fun things like that. So it's pretty good. You see how it's nice and cyclical. So if you are having trouble getting to sleep, staying asleep, etc., absolutely check them out. I promise you won't regret it. Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Have you gone and seen this movie? And if you have, what did you think of it? Do you agree with what the reviewers are saying? Do you think that their comments are fair and accurate? Do you think that they're completely horrible and that they're unfair and accurate? Are you somebody who's like, I am not gonna see this movie, absolutely no heckin' way, this is not for me, I'm not giving these people my money? Are you in the middle where you think, I'd like to see it, but I'm gonna wait for it to be on streaming services because I'm not giving anybody my money at this juncture? What do you think of all of the negative commentary around this movie? Does it seem fair? Does it seem unfair? What do you think of all of the drama continuing to surround Millie? Do you think that's fair? Is that also unfair? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here, you're not subscribed already, and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, as well as leaving this video a like and a comment, because I do read the majority of them and I like hearing your feedback. Like I always say, my wonderful little chickadees, I hope you stay safe and well and make tremendously good choices, and I will see your beautiful little faces in the next video.
Yeah, this looks a lot better. Okay. Dead Life. I'm definitely not gonna be watching that movie. Like I said, there's just nothing compelling about it. I don't really have any interest in watching it. I'd much rather hear other people's opinions on the subject. That honestly seems a lot more interesting than actually watching the movie. There we go. Better focus. I colored in this top half. I have not colored in the full thing yet. And already I'm liking this better than using the black. It's not quite as harsh. And it doesn't look as grimy. So all I did was I dumped some of the gray Gundam marker ink, and then I added a couple of drops of the black panel liner. So I'm pretty happy so far. The only issue is, will I be able to fix the first one so that they're not mismatched? The next video I'm going to be watching is apparently someone by the name of Bonet reanimated Invincible's worst animated scene. I've seen a lot of people, I don't know if it's the same guy, but I've seen a lot of people post videos of the Invincible TV series reanimated, and it is a bit of a shame that they didn't add a whole lot of post-production to the series. It ended up looking very flat, and with just a few lighting effects and shading changes, a lot of people have made it look really, really good.
I reanimated Invincible's worst animated scene, and this might be the best animation I've ever made. Over the last 2 years, I've reanimated Berserk, 7 Deadly Sins, Blue Lock, and One Punch Man, but this time, well, the circumstances are a little different. You see, in my last video, I went up against AI to see who could make a better animation, and people were saying that the AI animation was technically better, but I won just because a human made it. People said my animation was uninspired, lazy, and quite bad, potentially putting me on fraud watch. And if I'm being quite honest, I agree with the criticism. I really cheapened out in almost every way, out of burnout and lack of passion. But now, I felt like I had a fire within me and a point that I needed to prove. So I'm throwing myself to the wolves and I'm reanimating the biggest animated show right now with the most dedicated fandom. So will I beat the washed allegations, or will this be the very end of Bonet as we know it? But first, let's look at the infamous scene. The scene I'm reanimating is this little segment from the Invincible versus Conquest fight, and given everything going on in this fight, I felt like this whole thing should have looked totally different. You see, Eve is basically dead as far as Mark is concerned at this point. Like, this is supposed to be one of the heaviest parts of this whole fight, but the animation simply doesn't carry any of that weight. So right away, there's a disconnect between what's actually happening in the story and what's happening on screen. And that disconnect comes down to a bunch of small, unnecessary cheap outs. Mark's mouth just opens and closes with zero in-betweens. Like, I'm not sure if these shots can even be labeled as animation. It's more of like an animatic. They slap motion blur onto a moving PNG of him to fake speed. None of it does justice to the scale of what's happening. The lighting, the shading, the mood, it's all off. Everything looks super cheap, even though Amazon has practically infinite money to fund this show. But it's easy to sit here and point out everything that's wrong, and much, much harder to create a better product. If I actually want to redeem myself after the last video, I gotta prove that I can enhance this scene all by myself. No studio, no AI, just me, myself, and I. First things first, as always, I gotta gather up all the character sheets and solid references for both main characters in this scene, which is of course Invincible and Conquest. I even managed to get a little reference of Eve open. Oh, whoa. I tried getting references from as many angles as possible just to keep this animation looking looking as consistent as it could be throughout. Because if you want to succeed, you gotta set yourself up for success, you know? But there's more to this than just planning. You actually gotta execute. And after damn near getting humiliated by AI in my last video, combined with how badly I wanted to make the best animation I possibly could here, it led to work hours that can only be described using one word: slavery. I laid out the storyboard, which is basically the rough idea of what every shot is gonna look like and how the whole thing is gonna flow. I sketched and planned each shot very carefully, keeping in mind all the changes that I wanted to make to hopefully pull off some real improvements over the original. I changed up the angles and went with a new creative direction, which could potentially lead me to creating my best animation yet. And that right there is the goal of this video. With the planning out the way and with everything on the line, it's time to actually get to business and start reanimating. So normally I would walk you guys through the animation in order. For example, cut 1, cut 2, cut 3, and so on. But I'm not gonna do that this time around. Instead, I'm gonna start with the 2 biggest moments in this whole scene first, and then I'll go back and fill in everything that connects them. Just trust me, this will make a lot of sense, and it's more accurate to how I typically make my animations. I rarely ever animate the shots in order, so it's almost like you're getting in my mind a bit more, or something like that. First up is cut 1. We open up on Mark crying, gasping for air after Eve gets taken out by Conquest. And yeah, this is that 2-frame mouth flap I was talking about earlier. So let's do something about this. I added movement to his head as he's breathing in heavily, up and down fairly intensely, because he just went through a lot of shit and he's gasping for air as he's crying. This is kind of the normal reaction to this, instead of duh, duh, duh. I also kept in mind that his mouth is supposed to be opening and closing slightly, so I subtly threw that in there also. Then I took it a step further. Out of overwhelm of emotion, I animated him closing his eyes and slowly putting his head down in emotional pain from everything that's happened. And instead of animating his head just moving in a straight line, I had to follow this natural curved path, which is genuinely how our bodies move. This is called animating in arcs. It's one of the 12 principles of animation. I wanted to make sure that this scene and the rest of this animation was more detailed than the original show, especially relating to the lighting on the characters. This was achieved by adding clever shading. I know everything looks a little crazy right now with the line separations and stuff. Believe me, even I was a little confused. But once this was colored in, everything came out together quite wonderfully. This animation is a lot more exaggerated than the original, and he's truly acting, that's for sure. It really looks like he's feeling these emotions. Going into this, I said to myself that I was gonna make my best animation yet. And when I saw this first cut come together, I was feeling myself. And that confidence carried me throughout the rest of the cuts I needed to animate. But do you know what I don't have confidence in? My internet provider protecting me after digging through 15 sketchy sites looking for one specific manga panel as reference. That's where Surfshark antivirus actually comes in clutch. It scans malware in real time, so I'm not willingly inviting a virus onto my system every time I want to double check a panel while I'm animating. And that's just the beginning of the goodness that Surfshark provides you with. Whenever I'm out and about and I end up hopping on random public Wi-Fi, airports, whatever it may be, Surfshark just encrypts the connection automatically. So I don't gotta think twice about who might be snooping around on that network. I also use it to get around geo-locked content. For example, certain shows and movies I would like to watch that just aren't available where I live for some reason. But thankfully, Surfshark lets me access it like I'm browsing from somewhere else entirely by switching locations, just like that. And since I've got my tablet, laptop, and phone all running at once during a grind like this, Surfshark covers unlimited devices on one plan, so I'm not paying extra just because I'm a chronically online power user. So yeah, this sounds like an amazing deal to me. Make sure to go to surfshark.com/Bunny or use code Bunny at checkout. That's 4 extra months for free. And honestly, there's zero risk by trying it out, as they have a 30-day money-back guarantee if you genuinely hate it for some reason. Thank you, Surfshark, for sponsoring this video, and it's time to go back to animating. Now I'm moving on to cut 3, which is gonna be sort of like the star of the show. And I'm not gonna lie, this is the cut that I'm most proud of in this entire video. We'll come back and connect the dots between cut 1 and cut 3 in a little bit, but for now, let's get straight into this. In the original show, this whole sequence is actually split across 3 different cuts, but for my version, I decided to merge all 3 into one continuous, highly dynamic shot. For the love of the game at this point. Throughout every video I've made, I often tend to have some crazy ideas for the shots that I animate, but I think to myself, nah, that's gonna be too much work. So I then go for something a lot more safe to make. But with everything writing on this video, and with the fire that I had to prove people wrong, there was no way in hell that I was gonna half-ass anything for this animation. So I started switching things up technique-wise. I animated parts of this shot in 2s, parts in 3s, and even some in 1s depending on what the movement needed. And for the first time in a very long time, I went back to animating in straight ahead, not just pose to pose. I was just drawing frame after frame and letting the motion build naturally as I go. For a very long time, I genuinely forgot that was even an option for me. The cut starts with Mark flying towards the camera, and I made sure to ease him in properly so it actually feels like he's building up speed speed instead of just already going fast for no reason. Then it jumps into this super foreshortened shot that just keeps getting more and more exaggerated the longer it goes, all to sell just how fast Mark is moving. Then the camera flips to behind them and is gonna continue following Invincible's body. And you can already see Conquest in the distance since they're both flying straight at each other. Mark then swoops to the left mid-flight to keep things natural and to keep adding more and more speed to the shot. And then out of nowhere, boom! A close-up slow motion shot right before they collide. And that's the cut so far because I'm not even done yet. Because here's the thing, I did not expect to end up with a frame that looked this good when I first started animating the shot. I had an entire final frame planned out already, but once I saw what I had built up to this point, that original ending just felt embarrassingly simple. Like, what do you think I am? The second half is the actual punch. I open up in the impact and then I had this idea to end the whole cut on a full camera rotation into a way more dynamic angle than the original show ever attempted. So that's exactly what I did. This cut alone took me 3 days of 15 hours of work every single day. I'm talking wake up, work, eat something, go back to work, sleep, repeat. I genuinely worked like a Mappa animator for 72 hours again. This was the hardest cut I've ever animated in my whole entire life, period. And there were so many points during this process where it would have been so easy to cut a corner, simplify something, and just get it done. But I didn't let myself. I pushed through every single time because I just knew that there's a lot riding on this animation being the best thing I could possibly make right now. Okay, so far we have two different big moments. Mark grieving and Mark slamming into Conquest. Pause. But obviously something's gotta connect those two shots or it's just gonna feel like we skipped a step. So let's go back and fill in that gap. We now of course have cut 2. In the original show, we have like a super close-up shot and Mark just punching the ground. I mean, it technically gets the job done, but in my opinion, it doesn't have the right amount of drama that a shot like this needs. So for my version, I went with a more distant shot instead, which works as a perfect continuation from cut 1. The idea here was to show Mark going from that grief, that sadness over Eve, and then instantly bottling it all up to face the actual threat in front of him, Conquest. To sell that shift, I animated Mark exploding upward into flight right after the emotional processing. I added some debris and cubes flying off as he launches just to give it some actual weight. But what really sold the whole movement was the impact frames. This is the part that's doing the heavy lifting to create the illusion that he's flying upward, since it's supposed to happen almost instantly. The first impact frame is the character but inverted in color and sketched out almost like a flash. Then the second one drops to a full black background just showcasing the upward motion. And then from there into the debris explosion that I had built earlier. Up next is cut 4. So Mark just launched himself at Conquest, and now it's time to get into what happens the second they actually collide. And I'll be real, this cut in the original is probably the best animated moment in this whole entire scene. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, but I wanted to take a different approach just out of pure preference. In the original, their hands go into each other with pretty linear timing. For my version, I went with a way snappier timing instead. So the second they connect, it feels more like an explosion of force rather than a smooth collision. I started the cut with a slow ease in to build anticipation, energy building up, and then the second it releases, both hands clash together and erupt. For the debris on this one, I didn't want to sit here and hand animate every single piece frame by frame. I did do some, but instead I made 2 separate layers of still frame debris in a new project file. I'm gonna use some pretty clever compositing later on to make it look like it was animated by hand the whole time. And honestly, it'll probably end up looking even better doing it that way. I also did the same impact frame trick from cut 2, just helping sell that explosive burst the second the contact happens. And from here on out, the rest of these cuts are basically the follow through to that impact, so I'm gonna group a few of these together since they share a lot of the same techniques. In the original show, cut 6 and 7 are pretty much just still frames. The hair is waving a little, and the same stiff mouth movement I already clowned on back in cut 1 is back. But for my version, both of the characters get a slow motion shot where they're actually moving forward, since this is supposed to be a follow through from that impact we just saw. For cut 5 in specific, I decided to go for a slow motion shot. In the original show, it's in a more normal speed, but I felt as if things would hit much harder if it was slowed down. Again, I'm gonna add the debris and blood into these during compositing later on to really finish these cuts off. Originally, I was even considering doing the debris from Conquest's arm in 3D, but later I decided against it at the end of the day. And now finally we're at cut 8. The final explosion, the last shot, the big one. This cut is basically the same idea as cut 2, just on a way grander scale. Same logic, same impact frame trick, just everything turned up. But here's the biggest thing I actually learned working on this whole animation. And it was just how much build-up matters from making a moment hit as hard as it possibly can. Even something as small as throwing in a few smear frames with a pencil brush right before the explosion adds way more impact than you would think. It's such a tiny little addition, but it completely changes how the moment feels. And then the rest is history. I animated cubes again, the same as before. The trick here is making the outer cubes move up higher and faster than the ones closer to the center. I found that doing it like that looks a lot more natural, like the force is actually radiating outward instead of everything moving at the same speed as if it's glued together. This shot was a simpler one considering the work I've put in for previous ones, but after everything people said last video, even on a scene that I would typically undermine, I added details that made things feel more amplified. Something I could look at and go, this is the shit that I can make when I actually try. And with that, that, the animation itself is done, but my work here is not over. Now it's time to bring it all to life. Backgrounds are something I think gets slept on in a lot of fan animations. People get so focused on the characters that the environments end up feeling like an afterthought. But the background is what actually sells the world the characters are living in. If it doesn't feel real, the rest doesn't land either, no matter how good your character animation is. So while working on these, I needed some background references and some mood references that would kind of match the vibe that I wanted to go for this composition. So I figured that Chainsaw Man was probably like the closest thing to that. So I gathered up a bunch of references for inspiration and used these a lot. The official scene was way too bright and clean for what's actually happening here. Eve is basically dead to Mark, and the show just doesn't really reflect that. So I wanted the environment itself to carry some of that emotional weight. I also wanted these backgrounds to lean a little closer to realism, since that tends to look way better when you're pairing it with 2D animations on top. I got there using specific brushes for the foliage, the clouds, all of it, and just really focusing on getting the lighting as believable as I could. And honestly, this might be some of the best background work I've ever put out. I have truly impressed myself with this one on my attempt to make my best animation yet. And now it's time for compositing. For this one, I actually wanted to go for a completely different vision than anything I've done before. Something moodier, more cinematic, way less reliant on the same formula I've been running for years. So along the way, I picked up some new tricks I'd never even attempted before, and they changed the way I'm gonna approach compositing going forward. So when I usually do my layer styles to add more depth to the characters, I had been using the multiply blending mode with the color brown on basically every single animation I've made. It worked, but it never looked quite right. It always tended to look a little dirty. So this time I tried switching it to overlay using the color black instead, and it made a world of difference. It just looks...
Okay. I think I fixed it. I fixed the original first leg that I worked on. Trying to move my camera because I realize it's kind of dumb for me not to be able to see what the hell I'm doing. So yeah, I'm gonna be switching this up. All right. Permiso.
so much cleaner. And the same exact situation with the rim light. I always use the add blending mode for that, and it always just felt a little too harsh, a little artificial. So I ended up swapping it to color dodge using just the white color, and now it just fucking mogs. Now here's the one that actually changed my life a little bit. I've always struggled with making the characters actually feel like they belong in the environment. No matter what I tried, it always looked kind of pasted on top like a sticker instead of an actual part of the scene. So it was honestly an amazing surprise when I stumbled upon the tritone effect. Basically, you apply tritone to the character layer, then can use the eyedropper tool to pull the highlights, midtones, and shadows directly from the background itself. That shifts the character's colors just slightly, and suddenly they actually look like they're standing in the world instead of floating above it. From there, everything got dragged into DaVinci Resolve for color correction, just to push it even further into something cinematic. I added in blurs and camera shakes on the impact shots, chromatic aberration around the edges when things slow down, just to really amplify the intensity, and also some light rays throughout the whole thing for extra drama. That one effect alone ended up becoming one of my favorite parts of this entire composition. And then toward the end, I noticed that something was off. The final cut just wasn't hitting as hard as it should have been. So I went back to something I'd already figured out earlier in this whole process, and that was that build-up is everything when it comes to impact. So it turned out that Mark's slow motion shot was shorter than Conquest, so I decided to swap them around. And it gave a slightly longer hold right before the final impact, and that one small change made all the difference. Looking back at everything in this section alone, new blending modes, the tritone trick, this is probably the most I've actually learned and tweaked about compositing in years. It's so funny how some solid criticism and a tad bit of meanness can help you grow, not only as a person, but as an artist. Obviously, I don't really take the mean comments seriously. Quite frankly, I don't really care, but I've had some true dedicated viewers comment and give me some seriously great critiques about my work. I even felt aware that I was not doing my best, so seeing that others were becoming aware of that too really made me wake up and realize that I was getting a little too comfortable. I've always preached about improving oneself my whole life, and this is one of the times where I felt that I was regressing in something that really mattered to me. But anyway, it's time to move on to the audio and wrap this whole thing up, because no matter how good the animation looks, none of it hits the same without the sound doing its part. First thing I did was pull the actual voice acting from the show and stem split it to separate the voices from the music and sound effects. That way I'm working with clean dialogue and nothing else bleeding into it. From there, I built everything back up myself. I grabbed sound effects from Epidemic Sound and layered multiple effects on top of each other for basically every moment. And finally, for the OST, I went for music that matches the heaviness of the moment, not just music that hypes up the fight. And just like that, this animation is wraps. So, is the fraud watch officially over? I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I wasn't a little embarrassed after the last video, but if there's one thing that criticism did for me is that it reminded me why I fell in love with animation in the first place. I actually sat down and studied this stuff again, from new compositing tricks, timing, the way I approached animating. I'll even go as far to say that I really did succeed with my goal. This is the best animation I've done, ever. But what really matters is what you guys think. Either way, here's the full reanimation of...
Yeah, that was pretty freaking good. I like that. Again, that was Bonet. It's kind of hyper focused, so I wasn't really commenting much. This other one is by Vertex Arcade, and I really like faux 2D 3D models. So right here they're going to be going over how they managed to pull off that 2D look in 3D. And there's no audio, gosh dang it.
Image so that from all angles it looks. Today I'm going to be turning this character design into a 3D model, but not just any 3D model. We're going to make it look exactly like the reference image so that from all angles it looks like a 2D drawing. I always start off my models in the exact same way, and that's by bringing in my adjustable mannequin. You can find a link to it in the description, but I made it for myself to allow me to easily change the model's proportions so that I can start sculpting and modeling more quickly. To make my life easier, I always match the camera resolution to the resolution of the reference image, and this allows me to then view the reference image from the camera so I can start lining up the mannequin. Sometimes I'll play with the focal length of the camera if I see that the image looks very flat or has a lot of depth, but for this one the default settings worked out perfectly. At this point, all I'm doing is pushing and pulling the mannequin around until it matches the reference pose. There's really nothing fancy happening yet. I'm just trying to get the model to line up with the image, and keeping in mind that this is a 3D model, I'm always checking it from every angle to make sure that the model flows nicely. Sometimes when modeling things from a single reference image, they end up looking flat because you become so focused on making it look correct from one angle that you forget that the model has to exist in 3D space, so it needs to look good from all angles. This process usually only takes about 10 minutes, and once the mannequin is roughly in place, I can start sculpting to refine some more details. So I can remesh the model, and then I can start smoothing it out to remove all of the joints and seam lines, and I can easily do this with the inflate and smooth brushes. I smooth out everything until the joints disappear, and then I use the inflate brush to fill the area back in until it becomes relatively smooth. After that, I can do some basic sculpting with the clay strips brush to build up the forms. Sculpting isn't one of my strengths, so I just roughly get all of the muscle shapes and anatomical details in place, and then later I'll be refining this with retopology. There are some amazing sculptors out there who can turn a model like this into a finished piece, but that's not something I can do. My sculpts always end up looking pretty bad, but I know that I can fix it with modeling. For the clothes, I draw a mask and then use the mask extract tool, which separates the masked area into its own object. Then I can sculpt until it matches the image. What I'm doing here is called the blockout phase. So all I'm doing is blocking out all of the major shapes and landmarks, making sure that I have all of the different parts of the character in place. It also helps to apply some materials to the different parts to get a feel for the proportions and how the lighting affects different areas. If the model looks good with some simple materials, you know you're on the right track. The last thing I do is refine the face and add in some spheres for eyes. Again, at this point, all I'm trying to do is roughly get things in place. Adding in the eyeballs really helps with getting the proportions of the face correct. You'll see that I have to make some adjustments to make sure that the eyes fit, but in the end it makes for a better and more anatomically correct model. Once everything is in place and lined up with the image, I need to start remodeling everything, and the easiest way to do that is to get the character into a neutral pose. I need to rig the character and essentially break the model until it's standing roughly in an A pose. The A or T pose is the most neutral pose because the arms and legs are away from the body, allowing us to model easier. In most cases, you would probably model the character in a T pose from the very beginning, but because I'm just working from one reference image, I have to make the character in the pose, then get them into a T pose. If this character had a model sheet, then I could start from a T pose, but I'm limited to one image, so that's why I have to model the character in the final pose first. Once that's done, I can start the process of retopology. The faces of your character and how they flow are generally referred to as the topology, so retopology means we're just remaking the model, but this time we can make sure that things are more optimized and flow nicely. The main reason for retopology is to reduce the number of faces on the mesh. The fewer faces a model has, the faster it can be rendered, it can be textured easier, and it will be easier to animate. For my retopology, I try to keep it as simple as possible. I put a circle with 8 vertices around all of the major landmarks of the body, so the armpits, elbows, eyes, ears, neck, and from here, I know that all of these pieces should connect together because they have the same number of vertices. It's just a big puzzle. You have loops around the eyes and mouth, and then you just have to connect them in a logical way. There are guides that you can use for retopology, but once you do it enough, it becomes second nature, and eventually you'll learn how to break the rules of topology, like right here. Modeling hands is a pain, so I can just steal these hands from an old model and attach them to the new one. However, you'll see that we end up with some triangles when connecting the hand. This would worry a lot of beginners because most modeling tutorials tell you to keep everything as quads and that triangles are bad, and in some cases that's true, but it all depends on the use case. Sometimes the retopology just doesn't work out, so you can use triangles to reduce the edge count so that areas join together. You could easily hide some triangles under your character's hair or underneath clothes. As long as the areas with triangles don't deform too much, you can get away with it. And in this case, this is basically a statue. It's not going to be a playable character in a game or animated in any way, so having a few triangles here and there won't matter too much. Once the retopology for the body is finished, I can start to do a bit of work on the material. This effect is pretty cool and it's a pretty basic setup. All I'm using is an image of stars, and this is projected from the camera view, so that whenever we rotate around the character, the image will always stay in the same place. This is fairly simple, but it allows me to really see what the character is going to look like when it's finished. I also want to get the blue outline around the character, so using the solidify modifier and a backface culling material, we can create an outline, but I don't want the outline everywhere. It only shows up around the head, hands and hips, so I can use a vertex group to control where it shows up. All of the red areas will have the outline and the blue areas won't. So now I can really get a sense for what the character is going to look like. At this
3D modeling is super interesting to me, and I really enjoy taking my characters and making 3D models of them. But I am by no means in any way even close to experienced. I just kind of make things up as I go. So it's always fun to listen to 3D modeling videos and kind of just learn a few things, or at least get a basic idea of the concepts and techniques that people utilize when, you know, they're actually experienced in 3D modeling. I'm gonna call this one done. We're not gonna, you know, stress too much about it.
At this point, I can just complete the rest of the retopology for the clothes, following the exact same process of putting 8 vertices around the major landmarks of the mesh, and then just connecting them in a way that makes sense. With the whole character pretty much in place, I can start working on the final galaxy material. I wanted to get a bit fancier with this by having depth to the stars by giving it some parallax. I won't explain exactly how this works, but the main concept is that we're taking the camera projection technique that I described earlier, but instead of having it static to the camera, we can do a bit of math, so when we rotate the camera, the projected image actually moves. And then by using multiple images that all move different amounts, we can give the illusion that the different images are in front or behind one another. Another cool thing I'm doing here is using vertex groups as masks. In the reference image, I can see that the constellation only shows up across the hips, so I can paint a black and white mask using vertex groups, and then use this mask to only allow the constellation to show up on the hips. I also use this same vertex group mask technique to remove the stars from the face. At this point, I can start posing the character to match the reference again. This is exactly the same as the process I did at the beginning with the mannequin. All I'm doing is posing the character to match the reference, and because I did all of this work at the beginning, you'll see me toggling on and off the mannequin to see where certain parts of the body should be. At this stage, the model looks pretty nice, but we can take it one step further by adjusting the model to match the reference image exactly. This is the step that takes a model from looking good to looking great. Concept artists spend so much time making specific decisions about a character, and we need to honor those decisions and match them in 3D. Sometimes you'll hear the term off model and on model, and these basically ask the question, does your character look like the character in every situation? On model sheets, you'll see certain rules laid out by the concept artist, whether it's certain shapes to stick with or expressions that the character can and can't make. And as 3D artists, we also need to abide by these rules. So that's what this step is. I'm taking this model from a good-looking model to a model that actually looks like the character. I hope that you can see here that it makes a big difference. The adjusted version looks a lot more dynamic, and the shapes are a lot more appealing. The last thing to do now is to add line art. I have a full line art video explaining all of the methods, but I'm mostly using freestyle for the outlines around the clothes. Freestyle allows me to control the color of the lines, which is a lot more difficult using the other methods. So I can pick out certain lines, like the seam around the shoulders and the creases in the hood, and draw lines along these edges. I also then project the texture from the shirt onto the model by using a separate UV map. I have a regular UV map and one that I projected from the camera view. You can then use the clone brush in texture paint mode to copy the texture from the projected UV map to the real UV map. And then with a bit of cleanup on the texture, the model is done. I did a small bit of animation to bring it to life a bit, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. I love the character design and I love how the galaxy material turned out. I've uploaded a separate time-lapse video, so if you want to watch that, go ahead and check it out. But I hope you enjoyed this process video, and thanks for watching.
That looks crazy good. Alright. What I need is a video that I can actually listen to. So what do we got? Ooh, I know. This one was very interesting. I wonder if I can get a full video of this interview that was done of JD Vance in Bill Maher's show. But here is a quick rundown from Asmongold, who reacted to what I'm guessing is just a clip of the interview, not the full show.
I've had both his vice president a couple of weeks ago. Pence was here. I'm killing it with the vice president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember Mike Pence?
Okay.
What did you talk about with Mike Pence? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
I don't know. He was a lot more human than I thought than I'd ever seen him. I even asked him to come on my podcast where I get stoned, and he was like, maybe.
I don't know if I believe that.
But here's what people, when I say you, here's what sticks in their craw. Okay. The number one issue, immigration. Not immigration we like it that you closed the border. That needed to be done. The people who were here, the way you treated, I'm talking about your administration. Okay. You weren't out there yourself. But ICE, all that shit, too rough, too mean, too unnecessary.
Oh my gosh.
I think you got...
Not rough enough.
I'm not telling you what to do. Okay, I'm just giving you some advice as a friend.
Okay.
And I am.
All right.
And I'm not saying, I'm not asking you to apologize if I don't like when people do that. I'm just saying you go a long way toward getting people who are just completely shut the door to you and your administration, if you would just own that you guys went too far. You went too far, and you should own it like you did childless cat ladies.
Okay. So,
childless cat ladies aren't going around raping and killing people in America.
Here's the basic problem with that bill is you cannot do any deportations without law enforcement, and you can't do a law enforcement operation like that without having some situations that don't look good when they're recorded like that. I mean, let me give you like just one obvious example. Let's just set aside the immigration element of this, okay? If you take a guy who's committed murder and you go in and arrest that guy, sometimes that person's going to resist arrest. Sometimes if you take a video of it and it's out of context and you don't appreciate why that person is being arrested in the first place, it looks pretty icky if you take that out of context video clip. And what I worry about is when people say you can't ever do immigration enforcement if it produces a bad video clip, what they're really saying is you can't ever actually do immigration enforcement.
Fucking exactly. Abso-fucking-lutely.
For 102 years, we have been burning the man.
Gosh dang it.
Old man gloom.
And yeah, that is a really big issue. Wait. What the? No, it wasn't supposed to be full screen. That is a really big issue. Unfortunately, when you're trying to do things that are highly volatile, highly unpredictable, like law enforcement, and inevitably something's just not going to look good, which is a good reason why, or actually which makes it incredibly useful that now we have access to body cams when it comes to normal what do you call it, law enforcement operations, right? Many have argued that we should also have access to body cams for federal workers, and I agree. I think that is a very useful thing, so that we can actually understand from a much more nuanced perspective what it is that these officers actually have to deal with, and how those circumstances essentially cause some unsightly consequences. We can't just be offended for the sake of being offended, and we need to actually find out what is actually going on in the situation, what actually went down, and judge accordingly.
Thank God. That is exactly the way that I feel about it. Because, yeah, obviously when you're arresting somebody, it might not look pretty. Duh. Of course.
We had 12 million people come into the country, into the interior over the last 4 years, or I should say from 2021 to 2025. And we were elected with a mandate to get some of those people out of the United States of America.
All of those people.
You can't do that easily. Law enforcement deporting people is never an easy process. So I appreciate your argument that we've gone too far, but we couldn't do nothing. And I don't think there was an easy way to do this.
Of course. There's a middle ground. See, the other thing that...
There is no middle ground. There isn't.
Whenever
you have a suspect that's running away from you and they're being violent, there's nothing that the officers can do to stop that. Especially whenever they have 50 screaming like harpies running after them with air horns and trying to run them over with cars at the same time. This is honestly, it is a situation that is engineered to fail, and it is the most high-stress stress, high strain situation that you could possibly have. If you actually want these immigration proceedings to be more pleasant, you should be advocating to keep them in the jails, to not have people obstructing ICE at all, or even trying to protest and help the illegals get away.
Yeah.
And you should let them do their job, have them cooperate with the local officials, and that is what will produce the least amount of bad clips, bad actions, and bad things that happen.
And unfortunately, that was what was requested, right? Officials in law enforcement and the criminal system were asked to provide all of the records of the individuals who had committed crimes and who were not, legally present, and they refused to do so. And well, all that means is that now agents have to go out into the streets and hunt these people down.
That's the only thing that's going to make it happen. Obama is called the deporter-in-chief. Yeah, but they fudged the numbers.
Bothers us about stuff like that is that nothing ever lands in the middle, which is what I'm always trying to get people to do.
I thought you were crazy liberal.
Well, what's in the middle about running in front of an officer and trying to stop police officers with your cars and blowing air horns at them and trying to actively obstruct an operation whenever they're trying to arrest somebody? Like, that's not in the middle.
Because you don't watch the show. You should watch the show.
I actually do watch the show. I laughed my ass off backstage. That was a good monologue. Even though you were making fun of me, I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fair. Yeah. I know someone in your administration who watches the show.
Yeah, I sure do. And so I think there's a couple more clips about this too. I'll go ahead and look at it.
Like, if this is where the Democratic Party is going, where this democratic socialist, this obsession with Israel, with the Jew hating, with they don't believe in capitalism, no prisons, if this is where they're going, my vote is in play.
Okay.
And
I like to hear that.
It actually always has been. I just, every year, I don't make my decision by who has an R or...
That's pretty big. For Bill Maher, a lifelong liberal, to say that I don't know if I'm going to vote for the Democrats if they keep doing this, that's really big. They always say that? I haven't seen him say that. I don't remember him saying that last time.
Yeah, I
Bill
don't
likes
remember him
Israel?
saying that either.
Well, Bill's a Jew. And whenever you have... So this is the thing, right? Like, I always say that. I haven't seen him say that. I don't remember him saying that last time. Bill likes Israel? Well, Bill's a Jew. And whenever you have... So this is the thing, right? So you're a Jew. And then the people are saying that they like a group that wants to kill Jews. And you think to yourself, well, wait a minute, I'm a Jew. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, wait a minute. But what about... Wait, hold up. Wait a second.
I actually always came to the conclusion that the Democrat was probably better.
Sure.
And voted for them.
Okay.
And Trump can't run again, and he'd...
Why not?
Be a little too exciting for me anyway. So it's either going to be you or Rubio. Like, if this is...
I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Let me see here.
Don't make the final deal. Their nuclear program is still destroyed. They're still much weaker as a country. So my attitude is America wins either way. But I do think that what the president has done is asked us to do something that, frankly, nobody in 47 years of dealing with the Iranians has done, which is offer them an opportunity to fundamentally transform how they behave with the West. They've been the largest state sponsor of terrorism basically since they began as a nation, or at least as an Islamic republic 47 years ago. He's saying, look, if they're willing to change, we're willing to change too. If they're not willing to change, we still fundamentally have all the cards, and I think it's a good place for us to be.
But their program isn't destroyed. The nuclear program isn't destroyed. I mean, I don't know any of our objectives. And look, I said
How do you know that? How are you telling the vice president that that's true? Like, what?
What part is not destroyed?
Right. What kind of insider intel are you privy to?
Well, we didn't get in there. The whole thing...
We didn't get in there.
In where? What does that mean? You didn't get in there either. Nobody's gotten in there.
We didn't get in there, guys.
We have to get in there and see. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this.
Well, let me say,
we didn't.
First of all,
how do you know that we didn't get in there? Do you really think that, like, theoretically, like, if we had, like, a clandestine Delta Force operation to make sure that certain things in the Iranian nuclear program were destroyed, do you think that you would know about that? Really?
So a nuclear program, and I'm hardly a nuclear scientist, I'm a lowly politician, but the thing that you have to destroy is their ability to enrich uranium, which has been destroyed. You have to destroy their ability. Well, because you need functioning centrifuges that can actually spin.
All the time, we got to get in there and we got to get the dust.
Okay,
and we didn't get in there, so how do we get the dust?
So that's actually a separate question. So there's the highly enriched stockpile, which, by the way, was allowed to accumulate over 20 years of previous administrations. That enriched stockpile is something that we want to get. But, Bill, if we never get it, and the president wants it, and we are going to get it, but if we never got it, it's buried deep underground, and they don't have the ability to turn it into a nuclear weapon. So the program is functionally destroyed. We're just talking about, can we set them back even further through these negotiations?
Okay.
Duh. I mean, like, what do you mean we don't know whether it's been destroyed or not? Oh my God. Let me go and see if I find this. Okay.
Can you tell me you will do that? Will you bring us back to the middle, at least on that, where we can concede elections, where it's not either one of those two options?
Okay, Bill, so this is where I'm probably going to lose you here, but here's...
that happened about 8 minutes ago.
Look, I don't think that we should not concede elections, but I don't think that's what's going on. I think that if you go back to the president's core argument, he was making an argument about problems that existed in 2020. And here's the problem that I'm most focused on. The president and I have talked a lot about this, and I think we share a perspective here, but set to the side the stuff that really gets you and your audience very angry about whether the count was legitimate in Georgia or Pennsylvania or any of these other states. Is it true that large technology companies, some of whom have financial interests that exist outside the United States of America, were they censoring information in the run-up to an election? And set to the side the stuff, again, the Georgia stuff, but
that was litigated. Dominion, the Fox News.
That's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying, and you know that. Give me a minute. It's doing the thing again.
Argument here. The biggest criticism I had of the 2020 election is that you had technology companies that were quite literally censoring negative information about the left and promoting negative information about the right.
They still do it, by the way.
In a fundamental sense, like if the First Amendment says that we have a free and open debate and then the American people judge based on that free and open debate, the sense in which I think the election in 2020 was rigged, I'm sorry, is that you had technology companies that were putting their thumb on the scale in a way that completely obliterated the real open exchange of ideas.
Well,
now, by the way, it didn't happen in 2024, but it happened in 2020, and it was a problem.
Well, you're going to get a big pat on the back when you go back to the White House. All right.
This idea of continuous reinvention, I think, is really important. It doesn't end.
It does not end.
It just does not end with these ads.
Welcome to Reinvented with Accenture.
You're working the front desk. A man asks for a room. He pays cash. The girl has no luggage. And
I know the solution to this problem.
Something's off.
You eat him alive.
I don't even know why Bill isn't willing to concede this point. I actually don't know why he isn't, because it's so obviously true that yes, all of these big companies committed and tried to do everything that they could to subvert Trump. They worked with the Biden administration. They're doing everything that they can in order to stop that from happening. And I don't know why that's not really more obvious. I think it's very obvious. They even admitted it. Yeah, they did. They admitted it.
I'm just glad you're talking to me. You know, I mean, I say it every time when the Republicans come here, they take their beating like a man. It's the people I vote for. They're the ones who won't talk to me. That's odd, isn't it?
It is very odd.
I mean, and I probably...
Well, like this new woman who was elected in New York. Do you think she'll come on the show?
Oh, I know you want...
Yeah.
No, I can't get AOC. I can't get Mandami. I couldn't get Kamala Harris.
I wonder
took me
why.
8 years to get Obama. Anyway, let's not talk about my problems.
Isn't that crazy?
And I promise this is going to be a lot easier than talking to the Iranians.
The View?
Or even more, The View.
The question is whether it's harder than The View. That's right.
Yeah, it's not there yet. We can explain for a layman who hasn't been paying attention. So basically, inside of like 2016 to 2023, there was a concerted effort, I think, on social media in order to censor and manufacture a permission structure around a media environment that made it to where most liberal and left-wing positions were seen as the norm, and right-wing positions were either completely removed or seen as fringe, extreme, racist positions that you were not allowed to have. And I think that this was a norm that was across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all of this changed when Elon Musk bought Twitter. When Elon bought Twitter, the entire environment shifted completely. And then things moved over to having more freedom of speech, and Reddit was another one. Obviously, Reddit was another one. So was buying Twitter not the same for Trump? No, it's not, because people that are left-wing are still on Twitter. There's plenty of left-wing activists that are on Twitter all the time. So the big difference between, let's say, Elon buying Twitter and, for example, Twitter being owned previously is that Elon allows viewpoints from the left that are extreme. People like Hassan, people like Zohran Mandami, people like, even some of these random crazy nutballs. Those people are still allowed on Twitter. So the difference is that people perceive a variance of opinions as a bias against them. And I think that's a huge issue. And no supermods? Yes, exactly. The Krasensteins. Yeah, the Krasensteins. I mean, like, in my opinion, I think they should be banned, right? Because they're
The Krasensteins. Oh my gosh.
like promoting doxing and stuff, but they didn't. So I think that's the big difference, and that's what I think really happened. And again, I'm very glad to see, I'm glad to see JD Vance going on his show. I'm very happy to see this, but we'll see if there's any more of this that's going to happen in the future. But him going on and talking to people, I think, is a really good idea.
The interesting part is why is JD on a media tour at the moment? Is it for the election of 2028? Is it for the upcoming deals that they're making with Iran? Who knows? Gosh dang it. I'm not gonna watch the Blue Jew. 2 hours, bro. 2 f***ing hours. Okay. How much time we got? You know what? We're gonna go with this one.
Okay,
Hell
you know
yeah.
what we should, okay, you know what I want to watch, guys? All right, let me link you guys this video, but I want to watch a video like this. Hold on. American military versus the world. You see this shit?
The U.S. military doesn't just fight
Is it infographics show here?
wars. It feeds on them. Every conflict makes it stronger, faster, more advanced. And that's why the world calls it its police force. But even if you think you know how powerful it is, you don't. On today's episode of the Infographics Show, we're revealing how massive the U.S. military really is. The U.S. military didn't start.
I think everybody needs to know this because I don't think people understand just like how crazy it is.
It's crazy that people don't understand how crazy the U.S. military is. The only rivals we have are China and Russia. And even on that level, Russia has been completely mogged by a tiny nation, i.e. the Ukraine, with the help of US and international militaries. So clearly Russia's not quite on the level that we thought it was. And then China, well, they're always inching and encroaching on other people's territory and being very aggressive, but never once have we actually seen them lash out in any way, which makes it very interesting to see that they talk big, they act big, but so far they haven't really committed to any actions. You know, Russia talked big, and then they actually went for, you know, the takeover of Ukraine. China talks big on Taiwan, but so far we haven't actually seen any real definitive action. It seems like they're just trying to play the long game of gradually, you know, surrounding them and taking them over in various aspects. So China might not actually be as big as we thought either. Many of the anti-air systems that were employed by Venezuela were Chinese systems, manufactured in China and given to many of their allies. And those did not stand a chance. The US completely disabled everything and jumped in. So we might actually be unrivaled.
Like you hear people say like, oh yeah, well of course America's military is very big. It's like you don't understand like just the scale, this like the amount, it's not even close. Basically, it's ridiculous. Like the power disparity between like the America and like the rest of the world is like insane.
There is a lot about the job that isn't actually that fun that I have now automated away almost entirely.
I've automated away my entire life.
Art has a superpower. It began as scattered militias fighting for independence, but every war since has forged it into something bigger. And when World War II erupted, that transformation went nuclear. From that point on, America wasn't just fighting wars, it was shaping the world order itself. In the second half of the 20th century, the world was still feeling the fallout from global war, and the United States stepped into the void.
I like this guy's SCP videos. They're great. It's like a different channel, but it's like very obviously the same dude.
Fueled by the economic boom of World War II, it built a military so vast that no recovering power could hope to match it. And each conflict brought the next upgrade. Weapons got smarter and deadlier. Supply lines became faster, more complex, and nearly fail-proof. And from orbit, surveillance systems could track a target anywhere on Earth, from heights no conventional weapon could ever reach. The US military stopped defending its own borders and started managing the planet like a network. Cables, shipping lanes, currencies, and skies all fell under its constant watch. No other force on Earth operates at the scale of the US military. Its current operations include over 750 military bases, from tiny airstrips in Africa to entire cities in Asia and Europe. It's a system designed to project power anywhere on Earth within hours. The ability to appear everywhere at once before anyone else can react is what makes it both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The United States military isn't just an army, it's an institution that acts like part government and part economy. Wherever it sets up a base, infrastructure...
You want to know what America's biggest weakness is, though?
Hamburgers.
And this is something that
Cholesterol.
The commies already know this. They already know what our biggest weakness is. It's democracy. That's our biggest weakness.
Oh, true.
Structure follows. Roads appear, trade grows, and local diplomacy starts to move in its orbit. The reasoning for this is simple. America holds the world's largest economy and bankrolls its most advanced military network. Through a vast network of allies, many of them economic powerhouses, America doesn't just influence the world, it runs it. The U.S.
Which,
doesn't...
honestly is pretty scary because it puts us in the position where, like, if the Kwangos take over, it's over. It's truly over, right? Which is why I keep saying we need to try to remove that fail condition as fast as possible.
Ask for permission to act. The rest of the world needs permission to keep up. On paper, the U.S. stands near the top of almost every category, especially against nations of similar size or wealth. But what truly keeps this machine running isn't just money or manpower, it's the supply chain. Amazon can deliver a package to your door in 2 days. The US military can do the same, only instead of a box, it's a fully armed battalion of Navy SEALs. Within 48 hours, they can touch down anywhere on Earth. And that's just the standard. The immediate...
Imagine, dude. You imagine, like, we get to Cuba and it's like your Amazon Prime deliveries here.
response force led by the 82nd Airborne Division, can deploy anywhere in the world in just under 18 hours. For deployments within the contiguous United States, it becomes 8 hours. This is all possible thanks to the Defense Logistics Agency, arguably the world's largest logistics operation. Every day, the agency processes over 100,000 requisitions, everything from rifle ammunition and jet fuel to the exact wrench a radar team needs in Djibouti. It holds 5 million items across 25 global distribution centers. If a Marine in Okinawa needs boots at 3 a.m., the system already knows his size, his unit, and the fastest route. The boots will arrive before his shift ends. But the military doesn't just supply its own troops, it also supplies 89 countries through foreign military sales programs. When an allied nation needs weapons...
Dude, we're like the Amazon... We're like the Amazon.com of killing, man.
systems, training, or spare parts, they don't call Lockheed Martin directly, they go to the Pentagon. In 2024, U.S.-approved arms deals topped $117 billion. If that total went to one nation, it would rank fourth in global defense spending, behind the U.S., China, and Russia. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor, War Thunder. Ever wanted to command a fleet of tanks, jets, helicopters, and warships in full-scale multiplayer battles? Well, now you can, because War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game out there, and it is totally free to play on PC, console, and now mobile. You'll take control of over 2,500 vehicles from across 10 nations, spanning from the biplanes and armored cars of the 19...
Dude, I cannot wait for freaking Star Fox. The 4v4 Star Fox, dude, it's gonna be so sick. I can't wait, man.
To the cutting-edge tech of today. Each one is authentically modeled and features a realistic damage system. There's no hit points here. Every shell can hit critical systems like engines, ammo, or crew. And with X-ray damage view, you'll see exactly how and where your shot landed. What makes War Thunder special is how deep the strategy goes. Whether you're jumping into fast-paced arcade battles, tactical realistic mode, or fully immersive simulator, you're in total control of how you play. And now with the mobile version, you can take that experience anywhere. Plus, there's tons of customization with camouflages, 3D decorations, and community-made content. And the best part, you don't need special gear, just a keyboard and a mouse or controller. New and returning players who haven't played in 6 months on PC or console get a massive bonus pack when they sign up using the links in the description or pinned comment. That includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor Decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. It's only available for a limited time, so grab it now and take the battlefield by storm. The scale of the US production and its economy means Washington decides who gets what weapons and who doesn't. Every F-16, F-22, or F-35 sold to an ally creates a lifeline of parts, maintenance, training, and software, all running through American channels. It's like selling someone an iPhone, except this one can level a city block, and only Washington is in charge of the App Store. The U.S. moves its war machine by sea. The Military Sealift Command runs 125 ships, most crewed by civilians, carrying tanks, helicopters, ammo, everything a fight needs, even when there's no airport nearby. 17 of these ships stay permanently equipped, floating in strategic locations. One ship can keep a Marine brigade fighting for a month. 16,000 tons of cargo, tanks, guns, fuel, food, and field hospitals. It's enough to start or finish a war on its own. And when the ships are too slow, the Civil Reserve Air Fleet kicks in. This is one of those Pentagon programs that sounds boring, and then
this the one
you
that
realize
shows,
what
like,
it
the
actually
actual like matchups? Oh yeah, it does. It does. It does. It does. All right.
does. In peacetime, airlines like Delta, United, and American fly passengers around the world. But buried in their contracts is a single clause. In a national emergency, those same jets become U.S. military transports. The Pentagon can commandeer 450 commercial aircraft within 24 hours. What would normally be vacation flights can suddenly be hauling troops and gear to the Middle East. The airlines agreed to this arrangement decades ago in exchange for lucrative military cargo contracts. It's a good deal and a quiet reminder that civilian life still runs on military terms. And then there's those 750 bases. Some of them are huge. Rammstein
Do you guys think tanks are still useful nowadays, or do you think it's almost over for tanks?
Base in Germany is essentially a small American city on European soil.
Yeah.
It has schools, shopping centers, hospitals, and even a Burger King. Over 59,000 Americans live there, including military personnel and their families. It's a little slice of suburban America dropped into Germany, except the driveways hold fighter jets instead of minivans. Ramstein serves as a logistics hub for all U.S. operations in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And if war ever breaks out with Russia, this would become NATO's frontline command for airstrikes. Diego Garcia is a tiny atoll in the Indian Ocean, and it houses one of the most important bases in the world. The island, which is barely 40 miles long, is a glorified gas station and ammunition depot for the entire Indo-Pacific region.
Damn.
B-52 and B-2 bombers fly out of the continental U.S. to Diego Garcia and then to the Middle East or Africa. Even submarines can refuel there, and carriers can restock. The base holds enough bombs and missiles for the U.S. to start and finish a war with a small nation without resupply. But that power came at a cost. Roughly 2,000 people were forced from their homes so the US and the UK could build it. But bases like these are just the hardware. The real power lies in the network that connects them. The US military even runs its own internet, SIPRNet, short for Secure Internet Protocol Router Network. It covers the entire planet, linking bases, ships, and embassies in a closed digital web. Separate from the public internet, it transmits classified intelligence, satellite imagery, and operational directives around the world at all hours. A commander in Tampa can watch a live video feed from a drone over Yemen and receive updates from special
That's why they say, like, cut the supply lines, right?
operations teams in the Philippines, all at the same time. The whole network operates in real time, constantly updating and synchronizing. And above all of this are the eyes in the sky. Satellites provide all that information at a glance. The U.S. operates at least 200 military satellites, though the exact number is classified. The true number is likely higher than the rest of the world's satellites combined. And they are not just cameras in orbit. Some handle secure communications. Others track missile launches through infrared sensors. Even the GPS satellites that guide your phone and help you find a coffee shop are part of the same system that are part of the U.S. military network. Meanwhile, the capabilities of these satellites have gotten scary. During the Cold War, spy satellites carried film that had to be dropped back to Earth for recovery. Now they can spot a license plate from orbit or track a single truck across a country.
Like, instantly.
DARPA even suggested back in 2011.
It's crazy because like we were getting live streams from space, right? We get actual live streams from space now.
That future satellites might be broadcasting real-time video straight to commanders. Satellites also form the first layer of nuclear weapon deployment detection, allowing the U.S. unprecedented response times for mutually assured destruction or MAD policies. The Vela satellites launched in the 1960s can spot the unique signature of a nuclear detonation from thousands of miles away. They can automatically tell the difference between a nuclear blast and a conventional explosion. They are so sensitive, they once detected gamma ray bursts from distant galaxies. The military built a system to watch for World War III and ended up advancing astrophysics.
Nice.
Over time, the Vela satellites were gradually replaced by a 4-satellite infrared grid, which can detect a missile launch the moment it ignites. Now let's talk about the naval fleet, because this is where things get genuinely insane. The U.S. Navy operates 11 large aircraft carriers. And it might not sound like much until you realize that the rest of the world, combined, operates just 14 carriers. China has 3, India and Japan each have 2, and Russia's is inactive. The rest are operated by Spain, Italy, France, and Britain, all NATO allies ready to assist the U.S. if needed. And none of them come close to matching an American carrier. The older Nimitz-class carrier displaces 100,000 tons, far more than the 80,000 tons that China's newest carrier Fujian moves. It is more than any other model in the world. Each one carries around 90,000 aircraft, more than many nations' entire air forces, and crews over 5,000 people. The newer Gerald R. Ford class pushes things even further, tripling generator output, adding an electromagnetic launch system that speeds up flight operations by 25%, and using advanced arresting gear that cuts maintenance and manpower. Each carrier has its own desalination plant, power plant, hospital, post office, and even jail. And they're not just warships, they are floating cities capable of sailing for decades without ever stopping to refuel. Accompanying each carrier is a strike group composed of guided missile cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and supply ships. The battle group can project more firepower than most nations possess. When a carrier strike group parks off a nation's coast, it can project force for years, launching strikes, enforcing blockades, and shaping governments without ever setting foot on land. And that's why carriers are the ultimate diplomatic weapon, and every time one moves, the world pays attention. But the submarines are even more terrifying. The U.S. operates 68 submarines, including 14 Ohio-class ballistic missile subs, which carry 20 Trident II missiles. Each missile carries up to 8 nuclear warheads, with the destructive capacity to eliminate most major cities in any country on the Earth. 3 of the Ohio class were retrofitted to standoff assault submarines, carrying up to 154 Tomahawk missiles that can blow up small ships or damage carriers and military bases. And these submarines are practically undetectable when submerged. They patrol the ocean silently and constantly, carrying enough nuclear firepower to end civilization. In late September 2025, one of the submarines surfaced roughly 500 miles from China's aircraft carrier group, right in the middle of its naval exercises. China never noticed. The message was clear: submarines are the ultimate stealth weapon. And when it
Hold on, do we do that just to flex on them? Or are we like, by the way?
comes to the skies, the U.S. isn't lacking either. The U.S. Air Force...
Dude, I've seen one of those before. You guys ever seen one of those? Like the submarines? I've literally seen one. Like, I was out on a boat and then I saw the submarine coming in the dock. It was crazy.
Operates roughly 5,200 aircraft, making it the largest air force in the world. The second spot is taken up by the U.S. Navy.
I was going fishing for mackerel. I got invited to go on a boat to fish for mackerel, and then we went out, and then we were gonna bury someone at sea, basically. So
What?
we were gonna go bury someone at sea and then go fishing, and then because the dude that died was a fisherman, so you know he wanted to be buried at sea and stuff like that. So
nothing weird.
took a boat out, and then while we were going out, we saw this big ass freaking submarine coming in. It was so cool.
2,600 aircraft. The U.S. Army and Marines are next with thousands of helicopters, and when you add it all up, the U.S. didn't just develop air superiority, it made it policy, and it applies everywhere it flies. And that air dominance isn't just about fighters. The U.S. can deploy AWACS command planes to coordinate battles from the sky, or massive C-17 cargo planes that can land on rough airstrips in war zones. And when
Damn, I miss going fishing with my mom. Just like catching mackerel in the morning times. I used to catch anchovies and then give my mom the anchovies so she can catch mackerel.
bombers or fighter
Good
jets
times.
need to get deployed to the other side of the world, they just refuel in midair. And then there are the drones. While Ukraine could be argued to have revolutionized the state of drone warfare over the past 3 years, it's the US that developed the concept in the first place. The US operates thousands of unmanned aerial vehicles, from tiny handheld quadcopters to the massive MQ-9 Reaper. The Reaper can stay airborne for 27 hours, carry missiles and bombs, and be flown via satellite link from a control room in Nevada. Some pilots have fought hundreds of combat missions without ever leaving US soil. Drones let America strike anywhere on the earth with no risk to its own troops. Of
You can weaponize the gamers so easily like that, right?
course, all these systems wouldn't
do way
exist
better
if
at
the
it.
US weren't able to fund them.
The normies.
Thankfully, the biggest economy in the world is also, unsurprisingly, the biggest spender. But the scale of the investment is off the charts. The US military budget for 2025 was approximated at $850 billion. That's more than the next 10
By
countries.
the way, this is publicly available stuff. Imagine the classified stuff. Dude, that's what I was saying earlier.
That's insane. Combined, including China, Russia, India, the UK,
Like
and
Ender's
France.
Game? I
But
know.
even that number is misleading. It doesn't include everything. The Department of Energy manages the nuclear weapons stockpile at another $30 billion.
So I'm pretty happy with what I got.
Veterans Affairs added $400 billion
Gosh,
in
dang it.
2025. Intelligence agencies cost American tax.
There you go. Okay. Pretty happy with what I got. I managed to figure out a pretty good system where I combined the where the hell is it? The gray Gundam marker ink with some Tamiya black panel liner. And I got this interesting dark gray, and then applied it with a small brush, and I took off the excess with some tweezers, so I could get a much more subtle effect rather than really harsh lines. Now I'm a little bit confused. I think I'm a little worried that I might have put the wrong shins on the wrong sides. What does this one look like? Yeah, it seems about right. I think that's... They're both curving inward, right? Is there a difference in the back? Not really. Okay. I think we got it right. I really like the sculpt on the legs for these models. I feel like they added a lot of really good subtle shape to them that will allow them to pose in very interesting ways. The biggest issue with them is the posability. The joints just aren't all that what would you call them? They don't provide enough clearance for very dramatic poses. So, for example, she can't like fully sit down. She, I don't think she can do cross leg. Oh, actually, it's not that bad. But the worst offender is the hips. The hips just don't really provide a whole range of motion. But these are $80 each with the cockpits included, so I really cannot complain. I'm really enjoying them, and I think it's a pretty good value because you don't just get the model, you also get you know, the cockpit, and those things are huge. With the torso, I actually added some silver paint. Where the hell? I added some silver paint to the small details here. Where is it? There it is. We can just focus. It doesn't look the best, but I think it looks a lot better than it did when it was just dark gray. The dark gray outline that you see here is actually the exact color that it was previously. All I did was add a little wash of silver paint to it. How are we doing on time? It is just about time for me to go. All right, I'm gonna finish this video.
Taxpayers around $100 billion. When you add up every military-related expenditure across the entire federal government, the real number exceeds $1.5 trillion annually. In July 2025, President Trump announced that the Pentagon budget could surge past $1 trillion and stay near $900 billion for years to come. About a quarter of that budget goes to the people: salaries, healthcare, housing, and benefits. Roughly $170 billion buys new weapon systems. Another $140 billion funds research and development, a budget larger than the entire military spending of every country except China. The rest keeps the machine running: fuel, repairs, and maintenance across the globe. You might be wondering why the US needs all of this. After all, the country hasn't faced an existential military threat since the Cold War ended. No nation can...
By the way, those people are the most fucking annoying. Like, oh, why we need to spend this? Like, we haven't had like a real war in a while. Like, we're not in any threat. Like, yeah, you're fucking so stupid. Thank you for the 200.
The issue with that logic is, well, if you don't prepare when you're not in trouble, well, I mean, you just got to think about, you know, the second order effects. If you don't prepare when you're not in trouble, well, then once you're in trouble, you won't be prepared, right? It's like, for example, I think the most, what would you call it? The most relatable way that you could probably explain this is, well, why do we need to go buy groceries if we've still got food at home? But then the issue is, all right, we might still have food, but do we have everything that we need? And we might have cereal, we might have rice, we might have pasta. But do we have anything to pair these things with? Right? And so if you don't prepare before you need, or how would you say, if you don't prepare before it's absolutely necessary, then you just won't be prepared for when things inevitably go wrong.
Mr. Medic, we'd recommend you look at Pentagon CTOs demonstrates Palantir's Maven system. Maven system.
Good morning. I want to take you back to the year 2016, because that's really where the story of Project Maven began. Even before the project stood up formally as the Algorithmic Warfare Cross-Functional
This
Team,
is why
because it
foreigners
began
hate
with a
America is pure
hypothesis.
jealousy? Probably.
What does the third offset look like?
Just be our friend. Just be our friend and be chill. No need to hate. Like we could own together. You know what I mean?
If anybody knows about the offset strategies of the late 20th century, the first offset, or basically it was the function of how do we overcome differences in mass and scale that our adversaries have.
You know, you want to know what I always heard from European people, like back in the day, like not so much anymore since like Trump, but like before. You know, you always heard from people, and like, you know, again, I know I'm not talking about you guys in chat if you're European, because you're not like this, but I heard a lot of like, you know, America spends so much on the military, but look, their healthcare, we have government healthcare, and we have government healthcare, and everybody gets free healthcare where we live, and it's like, bro, you don't have to spend on your military because you know we'll save you. That's why.
On top of us, in order to wield a more effective and more effective military enterprise. What we
And yeah, actually, Europe, the money that they save on their military spending, they do spend on their social welfare programs, and unfortunately, they uncovered or discovered recently that they actually cannot keep spending what they do on social programs due to the fact that after Ukraine, after Iran, they realized that their military is completely just falling apart. They don't have any new equipment. The equipment that they do have is old and unrepaired, and in some cases even just unworkable. So they realize that they're going to have to spend more money on their military in order to keep themselves safe from big threats like Russia and Iran. And if they do go ahead and spend more on their military, they won't be able to spend on their social programs.
saw from the first offset, which was how do you use nuclear weapons?
Medicines, yeah. Well, the thing with medical research is medical research. How do I explain it? It costs money to research drugs, but whenever we make a drug, other countries basically say you have to give it to us for a lower rate, otherwise we will fucking just copy it anyway. And so like the reason why America always creates a lot of new shit is because because of the system that we have. The kind of private healthcare system allows for more incentive to develop better drugs, and there's also corrupt incentives. Obviously, there's obviously a thing where and this is the unfortunate part of it, is that it's incentivized to kind of create solutions that don't actually solve the problem, but that's a completely different thing. But in terms of drugs, other countries can basically tell us to sell it to them for cheaper. And so what that leads to is a lot of Americans having to take the brunt of the cost of of the development of the drugs.
Overcome that. That was the first technology offset. Second one was stealth and precision guided munitions. Secretary Carter, when he was trying to come up with the third offset, said the real advantage that we're going to have in the 21st century is decision advantage. How do you get better decisions faster than your adversary? That's what wins wars. The problem was in 2016, there were a lot of problems that we could look at for different types of technology, and AI was the one that he wanted to focus on, particularly for
Are they getting an AI shot caller? Military AI shot caller? Oh my goodness.
And so
beep boop in-game leaders.
The algorithmic warfare cross-functional team was established to basically say, get AI in the hands of the warfighter, focusing on UAV PED. What do I mean by that? What's happening for our airborne surveillance assets so that humans don't have to stare at screens. They get lazy, they get tired, they get distracted, they miss things. And so what we ran into was, let's use AI to try and tip and cue the right systems so that humans didn't just have to stare at a screen 16 hours a day and get tired. So with that, this is where we started. And the hypothesis was, if we got AI in the hands of the warfighter, it would work. We developed some of the best computer vision models possible. They were built on our data, deployed on our systems, everywhere in the world that we could possibly,
Dude, did they just turn the game from an FPS into an RTS?
No, I think they just made it full FPS.
Holy shit.
Right now you can see the enemy outlines, you can see the enemy data, their team, right? Their team affiliation. You can probably track their position on a minimap easier, right? They basically invented the IRL heads-up display.
We were integrated. You could detect cars and people. That was our primary challenges back in the Global War on Terror days. And so we actually fielded these systems quite robustly across the entire landscape. But the problem wasn't ISR PED per se. That was one problem. The bigger problem was the fact that our processes were not set up and our technology was not set up to use data-centric techniques in order to make better decisions faster. That just solved the problem of one individual in the entire chain. The real problem we were trying to solve was this. This is an image from a theater operations center in Scarlet Dragon. Scarlet Dragon is an exercise that Project Maven ran with the 18th Airborne Corps. And what you can see there is a bunch of static pictures, whiteboards. Don't be distracted by the screen. That doesn't have any automated things on it. That's just PowerPoint slides. We literally were trying to push AI detections into workflows that humans were limiting on our outputs and our outcomes that we were trying to achieve. And so we rejected the hypothesis that getting the AI in the hands of the warfighter was the right answer. What we really needed to do was take 3 steps back and say, the real issue isn't AI, the real issue is workflow. How are we making decisions? And that's when we came up with what I call the decision-centric approach.
That's actually a lot of things. Workflow is everything. Like for so many, even for like working with AI itself, workflow is really a huge part of like productivity.
The decision-centric approach.
Making the right decisions.
I came up with 9 questions. There are other approaches out there. This is my easy one, mainly because DARPA has their 9 questions. I felt like I should have my 9. So when you're thinking about trying to improve decision-making processes, you always have to start with the decision. You also have to look at how the decision's made today. What part of the process are you accelerating? What data is required to make the decision? How is the data going to arrive? How will the user interact with the data? What's the reduction in human input? How are you measuring success? And what's your iteration plan?
It's like move it up to like 6.
By looking at these,
here's
it's
like
pretty
the
straightforward.
big shit right here.
So that you're delivering technology at the right phase in their process, and they're giving you the mutual, synergistic improvements in how we approach things. It's not just the technology, it's also the process. The process is clear. That's what we need to be focusing on. And what we found when we looked at the AI into different types of workflows is that the system was wrong. This is Maven Smart System, Palantir's software as a service product that we are deploying across the entire department. As you can see, it's not just one data feed, it's multiple. And instead of having 8 or 9 systems for those decision makers to look at every single day in order for them to make decisions. You then fuse it into a single visualization tool. The single visualization tool allows you to select, deselect different types of data, look at different approaches to data,
shit.
but more importantly, action from the same system that you're trying to develop your workflows around. Once you have a detection that you want to actually move into
Dude, they're gonna have like the top fucking RTS players. It's good, dude. We need to abduct some Koreans. Hear me out.
Bro.
We gotta abduct some Koreans. Alright, guys. We need to put them in a box with like just this system. You know what I mean? Like,
targeting workflow, for example.
we need the Koreans with the best micro. That's what we need.
This is what we do. Left click, right click, left click. Magically, it becomes a detection. That detection then gets moved.
Yeah, we gotta get
into
faker. Yeah, exactly.
A workflow. This is standard digitized workflow, but I want to walk you through it quickly. You have different types of targets that are identified on the left there. Every single column produces a different type of decision-making process. Once you have that decision and you're trying to actually action that process, we now move into COA generation, course of action generation, where we are automatically, via a number of factors, trying to identify what the best asset to prosecute a target looks like. Once we've got the different approaches and we select one, we then can move directly into how do we action that target. So we've gone from identifying the target to now coming up with a course of action to now actioning that target, all from one system. This is revolutionary. We were having this done in about 8 or 9 systems where humans were literally moving detections left and right in order to get to our desired end state, in this case, actually closing a kill chain. When we started this, it literally took hours to do what you just saw there. And through a number of different deployments, we've been able to reduce that time significantly.
Dude, so like they could decide like, yo, should we bomb this dude? And then the AI is like calculating all of the, like where everything is and how long it would take. And it's like, yes. And you go like, press the button and you just tell the AI, I was like, all right, well, let me take a nap. And then fires the missiles. And then it just shoots the missiles like for you. You just press like, yes. That's crazy, man.
That is really awesome. And with that, we're coming to an end. Damn. Everything looks so blue on the webcam over here. I didn't realize everything looked so blue. It's kind of difficult to work with the lighting that I have because the camera that I'm using here is it automatically seems to adjust the white balance, and so you can't really see much. What the hell am I doing? It becomes difficult to see certain colors because the colors are automatically adjusted by the camera. And the camera over here in the back is also has automatic white balance, but I turned it off because it was, I think it's just too sensitive. It goes insane. So I turned that off, and now on this one, everything looks normal. And on that one, everything looks hella blue. Okay. We made some good progress. I am going to finally go and eat some food. Damn, these are really on there. I go eat some food. I'm gonna play some video games, and I'm gonna get ready for sleepy time because it is really late, And I spent most of my day fidgeting with the computer, trying to get things right, because somehow something's always off. I don't know why, but the audio is always off. The stream is always jank. But I guess that's part of the fun, right? Messing with things, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Just drop the line. Who cares? I'm gonna toss all of these out. Damn, these are a lot. A lot of Q-tips that I use for paint. I'm gonna try to tidy up because I know that if I don't clean now, it just might not clean later, and things will just be a mess. This is the free run from last episode, and looks like the paint job turned out really well. I wonder if I use this camera. The setup is really jank, but it's what works. There goes some neutral light. Can we see it? We can, but it's just not made for close-ups. Move this back. Yeah, just not made for close-ups. And that's why I use it as a webcam. In any case, that's all for today. Thanks for stopping by, and good night.